A lot of you thought I was delusional for spinning the meat inside of the game for over an hour. And I proved you right because I did it for 6 more hours. And it was glorious, but we're not here to discuss that. The developers actually dropped a huge update, an update longer than an erudite's forehead. It covers September, October, and November of this year, so it's quite a doozy. I'm going to leave it in the description so you can read it in full. This is not going to be a full coverage of it. I'm going to go over the highlights and the things that caught my attention the most. They started by giving us a little bit of data based on the latest playtest that happened in November, 11 days, an average playtime of 20.6 hours per account, over 10,000 unique accounts. Even the PvP server had up to 886 players, which is actually pretty amazing considering that this game has not been released yet, not even into early access. And the people who are accessing it are people who are actually invested, who have been following, keeping up with the news, aware that the game is having playtests. So pretty good numbers overall. And speaking of numbers, I wanted to focus a little bit on the classes played. Not surprisingly for me, Druid and Shaman are at the most played. These are the classes that have some really fun buffs. Not to mention that Druid has teleports, but they bring a lot of value to the party, so it makes sense that they're there at the top. Some of the other ones are pretty curious. I think it's interesting to see that Inquisitor is dead last. That's one of the new classes. Now, there could be several reasons for that. It could be that it's a new class and people are picking the things that they're more familiar with. It sounds a little bit like things they played in the past. But Inquisitor is also one of the classes that currently is on human only, so that might also have something to do with it. But I think it's a combination of several factors. I think people are sleeping on that class. That class is probably going to be crazy. It already is kind of crazy. I've seen it play in other groups, and you know, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Another thing that I thought was pretty hilarious, they did a top 10 poop sockers by level. That's right. They listed all the tryhards per server, the people who got the max level, and on the PvE servers, we had a few people who got close to reach level 60. Insane amount of playtime over here. And on the PvP server, pretty impressive. They actually made it to 46. And of course, the information that everybody's pretty curious about, the race distribution by server. I'm going to go again by the PvE since this is the one that most people are going to play. But of course, human is at the very top. I think part of it has to do with the fact that humans can play every single class in the game. So there's more leeway for that. But also, I think there's some of you out there that are too happy playing as yourself in a fantasy game. Come on, try other races out. I'm very happy, but I'm also very biased to see Goblin second on that list. A lot of people playing Goblin, at least on Crevea. It's third on Rel, but still pretty good numbers. I think it's because Goblins don't usually get to be a playable class in a game, a playable character, so a lot of people are intrigued by that, but I think they're also really well designed. So kudos to that. And then we got elves, dwarves, gnomes, ogres, and halflings. Dead last, but that's okay. Some of this distribution I'm sure is going to change once the game has the deep races. There's some really cool races that are coming out with those. So as soon as those are out, I'm sure this is going to shift massively. But for now, this is what we have. And I wanted to stop here because I'm not usually a PvP enjoyer in MMOs, but for the PvP server, I wanted to highlight this because it's insane. The top 10 players, let's go champ, doing honor to the name. 393 kills, insane, by one person. And the second person is falling behind by quite a lot. They had 45 kills, so he went hard. I don't even know what class he was playing, but holy, he raked in. And speaking of raking in, they also had the top 10 wealthiest players, so you can take a look at these lists depending on which server you're on, and you can decide who you're gonna beg money for. But to be fair, if they made it to the top, it's probably because they're not giving out any handouts, so don't get too excited. Then, of course, we got into the portion where they show us some of the stuff that they're working on. In particular, they showed us some new armors that are making their way into the game, from leather to Night Harbor cloth to plate, and for some, you know, druidic armor that looks really, really sick. We also have some more concepts to display for showing future armor sets and how they combine together. An elven inspired helmet and how it looks across all the races. I honestly really, I'm in a biased here again, but it looks really nice on the goblins, and I want to say the ogres look really nice too. So overall, really good job. And then we got a peek at these massive fire giants that look awesome. Absolutely amazing. And of course, if you're a necromancer enjoyer or just a purveyor of the undead in general, having the specter in its various forms, so cool to see the progression. And of course, later seeing the animations that they got. We got to see a few more cool animations that have been done that actually make for some wild interactions. One of the cool things about having a new game developed in the old school style is the animations are modern, and so that really gives more life to the game. We got to see some cool zombie textures, as well as a colored zombie. And of course, we got some amazing concept art by none other than Goblin himself. And these are really, really good. I'm just gonna have them on the screen, but you can pause according to which one you want to take a look at a few more, but I'm just gonna scroll by and show you these because they're amazing. Obviously, I'm biased towards the Goblin designs. And then we got to see what I believe are deep goblins, and these are monstrosities. I can see the changes happening over here, and there's various concept ones, including one that is very Cthulhu based, and I really love that, and how it opens up and it reveals what we're later going to see is another mouth inside of their mouth, and other armor sets that they could wear, looking really, really cool. On top of course, another goblin riding a very cool creature that I hope is a mount in the future. Not right now, but it hopefully will be. And of course, we got some more concept art of different, I'm assuming NPCs or characters in the world, different concepts for mobs, monsters you might find out when adventuring. They look really, really sick. Again, you can pause if you want to look at these in more detail, but amazing stuff to share. Some really cool possibilities for adventuring in the world. We also got to see some weapon designs. Always good to see some weapons, the possibilities of the things you're going to get to wield in the game. Always exciting. Some original concept art of the Paladin and Shadow Knight armor. You're going to get to see some of that evolution a little bit later, but looking good. The Dragon Scale armor looking amazing. I actually saw ZBrush working on the model for this as well, but this is a concept art. Looking really cool, really Dragoon-esque type set of armor. I really like it. And here we got, you know, the armor that I was talking about. Looks so good. I'm partial to the one that doesn't have the faceplate on top of it, but honestly, it looks really, really sick, and I can't wait for a deep elf to wear this. Then, in the realm of animation, we actually got to see quite a few new animations, like waving hello for the elves, bowing down, cheering, and kneeling. We also got to see them kind of swim and drown in the water, so that's cool to have a new animation for that, as much as I feel bad for these little guys. Once again, for those undead enjoyers, we got quite a few animations for the Spectre, and it's looking really good, from idle to floating around, and kind of casting and attacking with the scythe. So many cool little animations. Not to mention, they also showed the way that it dies, which is actually really, really cool. We finally got to see what I believe is going to be deep gnome animations of how they move and they run. Obviously, a lot of work in progress for the models themselves, but the animations are there. Cool way that they sit down. Very nice stuff. And bringing more life to the rats. I actually feel bad for them now, and I'm going to kill them because they look so lively. This is what I mean when you take into account new ways and more modern ways of animating. It really brings to life even old models or characters, because you get to see them move in ways that you didn't get to see them back in EverQuest, or even further back beyond that, or in the games that followed it. They didn't have this kind of modeling or animation work happening those days, so really cool to see. And obviously it plops down dead. Oh. We also got some more animations for sharks, swimming, attacking, dying. And of course, we got some animations for the ogres attacking, but also more importantly, scratching their butt, because that's what you really need from an ogre. And you got some more combat animations for the dwarves, but also for the goblins. And of course, some dual wielding with weapons. Very cool. And most importantly, the bear form for the shaman and how it sits down. Really cool to see all these concepts. Again, the animation and the sound brings all of this to life in ways that are unimaginable. Some more Cthulhu inspirations. I always mess up this mob's name, so I'm not even going to try. Mycothane, Michael Caine, you know what I mean. And of course, some Ratman animations looking good for the casting as well. They also showcase some environment art. Once again, you can pause if you want to look at the detail, but all the additions to not only Night Harbor, but adjacent locations and dungeons and little details that are slowly working their way into the game and just making them look cooler overall. Lots of new locations, a ridge that really reminds me of the LOTR, party adventuring up high in the mountain. So very cool to see. An amazingly beautiful shot of the sun, peeking out over a landscape. It looks really, really good with the mountains in the background. This is the kind of thing that this game does really, really well with the lighting and the fog and the clouds and all those other effects that are happening. They just make it feel like a really lived-in world that I enjoy. Some night concepts in the deep, and pretty exciting to see some of these zones, but also really cool to see all the glowing mushrooms that kind of give that lighting. So in some regards, better light than upstairs when it's dark. So interesting. But you can see these dark portions as well, where the only light you see is the one right here in the mushroom area, and everything else around it is almost pitch black. We got to see some more concepts for, cities and things hanging upside down in the deep that I think would be really, really cool. Some little concept art of some huts and some other peculiar buildings that may have or may not have a face on them. Some real good work that they did on the water. The water looks amazing, very modern. Even the coastline looks like real seawater. So it's insane the amount of detail that this game can have, even being an old school style game. They said waterfalls got more waterfally, and I believe them after watching these images. We got some herbalism nodes, yes, finally. And of course, we got a whole bunch of crops that look amazing, and for you to populate, the environment. I'm assuming some of these are going to go into the housing, but it's looking good, looking good. Some new signs for, locations around the city that you might recognize. As well as some wanted posters. Some sick looking ballistas. And a home. My future desk setup, some in-game design of a table, but it looks really, really cool. And of course, even more assortment of props. And even a chair for, size comparison for these houses. And of course, some new concept art. I don't know what that goblin is up to, but he's gonna get some scolding. Audio and music, they obviously did a new pass. They added new songs, whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna give you a small snippet of it, but I'm gonna link these in the description so you can listen to them in full. You should. The soundtrack is fire. And from the design point of view, we had lots of changes to traits and trait skills. Again, you can pause to read these. There are a lot, so we're not going to go over because we want this to be shorter than the actual reading of it, But you can stop by and see all the changes to itemization and all the changes to content and so on and so forth. General abilities and global changes. And of course, you can pause in these, but there's a lot of class changes to the Archer, the Bard, the Beastmaster, Cleric, Druid, Elementalist, Enchanter, Fighter, Inquisitor, Monk, Necromancer, Paladin, Ranger, Rogue, Shadow Knight, Shaman, Spellblade, and Wizard. As far as the UI and community tools, I'm not going to get into the little nitty-gritty details of the text, but I'm just going to show you the work that was done. We have little indicators that I give you the different states. and inform you what's happening with your player. You know, there's a lot of little details here that look really good as far as the concepting. Some little designs for your spell book, which actually look really nice. Some icon sets that go across your character sheet and other spell locations and other stuff like that. Really, really detailed, really, really cool. You get to see some of these. You might have actually seen these as emotes at some point. Other UI elements like a hand selecting and chests and, you know, trash can and arrows and a whole bunch of other really good designs that you can see more in detail here. Them showing you how they now have a feature, you know, not just to open a new window, but to have different tabs, and you can set them across and behind one another and stock them together. So a really nice quality of life change. Some of the chat settings you can include and change around. The possibility to, you know, hide your commands for the mud stuff, so that's really nice. And of course, the tags for your character, so you can go hardcore, you can go self-found, you can go hardcore self-found if you're really that into punishment. A new community hub where you can find everything from the FAQs to the roadmaps to the new player guides to updates. Everything is over here. Petitions as well. Development history. Everything is neatly organized now, and you can find it all in one place on their website. Then they showed us a little preview of the new character creation screen that they're working on. So looking really nice with the character up front, but you being able to deploy and show some of the gods and, you know, the traits and stuff like that, and just in one window as opposed to clicking through many. So this is actually a really nice design. I like it. I like the concept and can't wait to see it in the game. And then on the technical side, there were a lot of changes, a lot of fixes. Again, you can read this on your own time and pause, but there's a lot that got into the game, a lot that was fixed. More importantly, they've also told us that in the next week or the next 2 weeks, we're going to get some details on when the next playtest is going to be, or what the details are going to be for the beta and early access timing. So stay tuned for that. We might cover it in a video. And for those of you that aren't here necessarily just for Monsters and Memories, don't worry. We got some more videos coming out. We have a video on another roguelike I want to show you that I think you're going to really like. And a video discussing fantasy in games, even the ones that aren't necessarily fantasy RPGs, and why it's so important to have fantastical elements that elevate your game and elevate your gameplay. So stay tuned for those if you're curious. We just made affiliate on Twitch. Thank you so much for your support. Come by the streams, follow, watch us play live. I'll be live tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully this was informative, but also breezy. It's already 23 minutes. But considering the length of the document, this is the best I could do. Okay, guys? I'll see you guys next time. What's up?